Okay, what's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? RIB back for another video. Joining me, as always, is Kevin.
What is up, everybody?
So, yeah, we have a number of topics there waiting for us tonight.
Yeah, be a bit more off the cuff, a bit more free flowing than normally, but we'll go with it and we'll see how she goes.
Yeah, so we should have some guests. I mean, I've opened it up to everybody, like,
Yeah.
so if anybody wants to kind of chime in, then they can. If not, then we'll just do our own thing together.
Yeah.
It's fine. Either way, it's fine. Okay, so the first one is, yeah, you had brought up, or like you had found
Reddit.
on Reddit, yeah, something about like a new Russian tech. So I'm a little bit ignorant on this one. I actually don't know what's going on. So
Yeah.
maybe you could explain
Yes.
it to all of us.
I am now the expert on it because I've scanned this article more than once. So yeah, but yeah, no. Joking aside, apparently over the next while, more than 43,000 Russian schools will start implementing this new technology called Orwell. And Orwell is it's basically, it'll take networks of cameras and will install facial software recognition software into it. The purpose seemingly to like monitor the activities and the comings and goings of students for attendance purposes, make sure nobody's on site that shouldn't be on site, that kind of way. But it does, combined with the fact that they unironically called it Orwell.
Yeah, that's probably one of the, yeah.
Yeah, as in, and for those of you not familiar, George Orwell was the author of, amongst other things, 1984, that great novel about literally a totalitarian state and Big Brother and the likes of that, and the state constantly watching you and stuff like that. And given the fact that it's a prior Soviet nation doing something like that,
Yeah.
it's like, whoa, the optics in this aren't great, are they?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't look or it doesn't sound great.
No.
So,
Now, the reasons are pretty good reasons, like for keeping people safe and such like that. Like, but I don't know where it can go. Like, I mean, if this software can be installed in schools so readily, it can be installed everywhere. So, I'm sure it exists in other capacities, and like, I know the UK is supposedly one of the most under surveillance countries in the world,
yeah.
and I'm not sure to what extent they're kind of hooked up to that same level of like facial software recognition stuff. Like, but I know it's kind of a glimpse into what the future is going to hold, isn't it?
Yeah, I just want to do a little bit of a quick detour and say hi to Arena, because I noticed that you've just joined there. Is she still here? Yes, you are. Are you here, Arena?
I'm here. Can you
Okay. Yeah. I can hear you.
hear me?
Can you?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
So yeah, so just to kind of recap, basically Russia is doing like a facial recognition scan thing that they're putting into schools, and they're calling it Orwell, in probably the greatest example of irony.
Yes. You still there, Arena?
Yeah, she just has her mic muted.
We're
Yeah, so,
crashed.
like,
I'm here now.
Oh, good.
You're okay. So was there anything else? Was there like, is it like, have we got like a time frame on when that's going to be implemented, or?
Yeah, it's already implemented in over 1,500 schools.
Jeez.
Yeah. So so literally this is what a spokesperson stated, that the technology will ensure children's safety by monitoring their movements and identifying outsiders on the premises. But like, yeah, it's a good use of it, I suppose. But I don't know. At the same time, it's like, you could easily put this, like, say if this software is implemented elsewhere, who's to decide who an outsider in this capacity is, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
Just say, for goodness sake, say like any kind of fascist regime kind of gets hold of this,
Hmm.
and they maybe identify a particular subgroup of people as unwholesome or unwelcome.
Yeah.
This could be used essentially as the secret police to identify people.
Yeah.
So, like, it's always the case of like, yeah, maybe you like the people who are in power at the minute, but by giving more powers to the establishment, you're also giving that power to the people down the road you may not necessarily agree with.
Yeah, it kind of seems like it's been done for like good reasons now, but
Yeah.
the possibilities for the bad reasons are like they're not just there, but they're kind of outweigh the good.
I think
At least that's how I'm kind of picking up on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, based on everything that you've said, that's how I would kind of react to it.
yeah. And I wonder how unsafe schools are in Russia if they need to do this, or did somebody just make a really good pitch to the like Minister for Security or something like that?
I don't know.
Because like in the US, the solution was it put armed police officers in school?
Yeah.
Out of the two, which is more which you prefer less?
Out of those two choices, probably the facial recognition.
Like less,
No, I like that more
like more. Why?
because, like, if because well, I mean, a security guard on the door of the school. They're there and they're paid to protect the school, and if anything happens to kind of like de-escalate or to like solve that issue, they're not paid to memorize every single face that's going into the school. So how are they supposed to know that, like, if it's like, how are they supposed to be able to tell the difference between that's a face I haven't seen before and that's somebody that's going to I don't know, infiltrate the school or something like that?
Kidnap somebody or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Presumably-
Something bad, basically.
I'm thinking that's the angle that has to be in terms of safety, kidnapping, because if there's a bunch of shootings in Russia, you'd hear about it. That's
Yeah.
just my logic that comes to it, but kidnapping is probably something that's kind of commonplace enough, like,
Yeah,
horrible as it sounds, but
yeah.
I wonder will this be kind of become more and more prevalent across the decade of the 20s as we see it, just kind of you're familiar with this would probably fall into the Internet of Things. You've surely heard that term thrown around before.
The which?
Internet of Things.
Yeah, I've heard that term before.
Yeah, it's the interconnectivity of devices that don't necessarily need direct input for that internet connectivity to occur.
Yeah.
So this has only been growing exponentially over the last couple of decades as bandwidth speeds and such has gone up. So I wonder will this kind of creep into intruding upon personal privacy and rights even more than it has done, because obviously they do intrude on your privacy, but in the capacity of what you do online and that kind of thing. It's a bit more of a real step when they're tracking your face wherever you go, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky one to talk about,
Yeah. It's one I'm putting like a mental note in my mental pegboard as to come back on that and watch.
Yeah,
See where it
and
goes.
and
Yeah.
see like what's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Russia under Putin doesn't exactly seem the place to where they'd pull that back if it got out of hand, like, if it showed any kind of useful utilitarianism, they'll definitely apply it elsewhere. Definitely. So
Yeah.
no, that's just, I know it's kind of outside of the realm of what we normally kind of talk about on here, but it's just something that struck my fancy and was like, that's an interesting topic. So I said we'd kind of bring it in, like it's kind of a food for thought type of thing,
Yeah. It's something different anyway.
Yeah, something different. You had something to talk about next Thursday, didn't you?
The like next topic, or the next kind of topic heading that we have is The Last of Us 2,
Part 2.
or Part 2. Yeah,
Yes.
Part 2.
Yes.
So you had kind of said that you had wanted to kind of say something on it or bring something up or make reference to it or something like that.
I did. So we'll get into our opinions on our actual opinions of the game later on. Steven's played far more of it than I have. I've played enough of it to kind of to gestate a bit of an opinion on it, but nothing concrete yet. So I'm going to kind of leave that up the ether. But what I want to talk about is, have you seen the Metacritic of it? Metacritic score of it?
No, I've seen the IMDb.
Yeah,
but no, I haven't seen Metacritic score of it.
Usually, I go towards Metacritic for stuff, just because it's the amalgamation of different sources.
I usually would as well. I would kind of like favor their score or their opinion a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I just kind of thought that I might like. So there's a section on IMDb for reviews that you have to specifically click into.
Yeah.
I just wasn't, and I knew that. It could be the same thing on Metacritic. I just wasn't 100% sure, and I didn't want to get any sort of like an end game spoilers because if it's like
just
a review of it, it's obviously it's probably going to contain something that I haven't seen yet.
Yeah,
and so I just didn't want to kind of spoil it on myself. That was the only reason that I went for them.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So similarly to all these other kind of sources or reviews, it's very similar to Rotten Tomatoes in its format, as far as it'll have the reviewer score and then essentially the audience score.
Yeah.
So the reviewer score is at 95%. Reviewers love the game.
Okay.
They'd rate it at 95%. That's probably at the top 10 of this generation.
Yeah.
According to that.
Yeah.
The audience score, they do differently. They don't do a percent thing. They do it out of 5.
Okay.
It was 3.5 last time I saw it. Well, that doesn't sound terrible.
No.
But given the fact that would equate to, was it 3.5 equates to about 65% ish?
Yeah, ish. Yeah. Kind of like give or take. Give or take, yeah.
That's a pretty huge difference. Yeah. But what I think this might be is that the leaks of the game, the ones you know the ones
I know the ones you're talking about. Yeah, I know the ones you're talking about.
For people unaware, I won't go into leaks because of that little potential spoiler territory as well.
Yeah,
and
I just want to kind of say, because I haven't gotten so far into it, I can't confirm or deny the leaks. Yeah. I've gotten I'm like at this point I'm probably like 8 hours into it. I actually checked it earlier. I was only 6, so like that's when I took over.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've probably played about another 2 hours of it since. So I'm not too far into it, whereas I can't deny all of the rumors or I can't confirm all of them either.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of why we're kind of tiptoeing around the edge here and a little bit,
So the initial leaks that came out about 2 months ago.
Was it 2 months ago?
About that, I think it was about 2 months ago.
It doesn't seem like that long ago. I'm not necessarily saying you're wrong. I'm just saying it doesn't seem like that long ago.
This is quarantine time.
This is exactly, yeah.
Where clocks turn backwards and weeks leap forward in the blink of an eye simultaneously. These two dichotomies currently simultaneously for some whatever reason. But they leaked 2 very important plot points of the game.
Yeah.
And if true, are extremely, extremely divisive amongst the community. And kind of fly in the face of what made the first game great.
Yeah, that's why, like, I was only saying to you earlier.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not... I'm optimistic. And I'm optimistic because when The Last of Us, the first one, was released, was it 2013?
2013 for PS3 release.
Yeah, for PS3
for remastered.
So, but like when it was initially released for the PS3, I think we can all kind of agree that it extremely quickly became like a colossal deal. Everybody absolutely loved it.
I'd argue that it was a landmark in games in terms of storytelling.
Yeah, 100%. But it's because of that it became such a massive deal.
Yeah,
and not just because not just that as well, but also Joel and Ellie became the poster. It became like 2 iconic characters for Sony. Yeah. So like, and everybody loves them, and like Naughty Dog has heard this. And they know this, and they know that they're well loved, and they know that like there's such a connection between these 2 characters, but also the characters and the players.
Yeah.
So like I just don't see why all of the spoilers would be true. And I'm saying it in that way because I don't want to go in case this ends up being true and I have spoiled anything. I just can't see all of them being true.
Okay, from what I've seen so far, I think they well could be. Unfortunately, I know people are probably pissed off because we're talking so cryptically, but
it's just because the game was released
2 days
yesterday.
Oh, yesterday,
midnight on Friday. So like, and this is 6 p.m. Eastern on Sunday or on Saturday. So it's like literally a period of like, what is that, like 36? I don't know, something less than 2 days. And so like, I literally just haven't found the time to kind of play enough of it that I'm not that far in. Most people haven't, but it's just because I don't know.
Yeah.
That I can't. Do you know what I mean? And an awful lot of people don't know because they haven't played. They haven't cleared it. So I just don't want to, like, I don't know, be the bearer of bad news or something. I don't know.
And once I'm going to talk about something, and then maybe after this will jump off into the whole concept of maybe reviewers versus audience. We can maybe talk about that afterwards.
Sure.
But I'm going to use some numbers here. So in the life of The Last of Us, the first one, since initial release in 2013, it's had in around 9,500 audience scores.
Okay.
Within the first 12 hours of part 2 coming out, there have been 5,500 audience scores of this game. Now, unless you have somehow managed to speed run hack the game as it first came out, these people have absolutely not cleared the game and aren't basing it on clearing the game and making their judgment based on that. This is obviously the damage that the leaks have done.
Which, to be fair, we don't even know are 100% true.
Yeah.
Like there are some reviewers, there are some people out there who, have cleared it, and don't type in The Last of Us 2 into YouTube because you're just going to get like fucking spoiler filled videos. I would imagine. I haven't actually done it, but I would imagine
it'd be like, and some of these fuckers will do stuff like put spoilers in the thumbnail, so you can't.
Yeah,
I remember when
and you can't unsee that.
I remember when Red Dead 2 came out first, and okay, people, I'm going to spoil this. Game's 18 months old now at this stage.
Yeah,
But like, I was one amongst the first people. I was amongst the first people to clear it, I think, because I was so into that game.
Yeah,
I got spoiled.
You waited. Like, how long did you wait?
Yeah.
Like, you were completely justified in like speed running that or in clearing that, like as quickly as you could. You did your waiting.
And I got spoiled by a fucking video with the thumbnail that and it was such. They did it with the thumbnail so that they couldn't filter out words. So it was just a PNG image, like, oh, watch as Micah kills Arthur. It was like, well, fuck you then, like. I guess I know how this story ends. As I myself was probably only 2 hours away from doing that myself, so I was really pissed off.
Oh no! It was literally just as you were about to get to that stage.
So, listeners, if you're at all interested in enjoying the story of Last of Us 2, what I recommend so that YouTube doesn't recommend these videos to you is any video game, just for the next little while, any video game related thing that pops up in like your mobile feed, click it and click not interested, and the more times you do that, it'll be less likely to actually pop those up to you.
Or what you can do alternatively is you can
browse incognito.
Browse
incognito mode for YouTube.
No.
Okay.
What you can do is you can go into the settings on YouTube. I'm not 100% sure where they are. I just know that this is a thing. And it's very much like Twitter. So with Twitter, like, so the example that I will use is Endgame, Avengers, right? So for people that didn't get to see it for like a week or so afterwards, what they would do is they would go into the settings on Twitter, and they would type in things like Avengers, things like Endgame, and any tweet involving those words would just be automatically, like, they wouldn't show up on your feed. YouTube does something different where you can like where you can cancel out entire categories of videos. So like gaming is one of the categories. Just go into your
that's cool.
settings
I wasn't
and
aware.
again, as Kevin was saying, just for the length of time that it takes you to actually clear the game yourself, just cancel all incoming videos from the gaming category.
Yeah, that's much more streamlined than my suggestion.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. I didn't know Twitter did that. You can basically
Twitter did that, yeah.
you can create your own essentially blacklist of terms.
Yeah. Or of like topics or of words or of whatever, yeah. So
That's cool.
but it's done for things like that. I'm sure
Yeah.
people are doing it on Twitter for the Last of Us right now.
Yeah,
You know, just because they're in the same spot as both of us are.
Yeah.
We haven't cleared it yet, so we don't know what's going to happen, and we don't want it spoiled on us.
yeah, and the internet is a different place than it was when The Last of Us 1 came out.
Yeah.
Because I didn't play The Last of Us when it came out first on PS3. I only played it when it came back on the PS4. Like,
Oh, did you? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So like, I was like, but I was still.
I thought you would have got that on the PS3 because you had the PS3.
But the thing was, I was still a broke, not even a college student back then, and the PS4 was right around the corner. So I was not buying any games for the PS3 at that stage.
Ah, right, okay.
So-
So like for the last year of the PS3's life cycle,
I was
you
just saving up
right?
for
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
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 pretty
yeah,
much.
yeah. Okay.
But yeah, but having said that, so even it was 10 months before I got to play the game. Nothing was spoiled for me, and I was regularly kind of skimming through and seeing videos for pop up and that. It's just people are kind of shitty like that.
People have gone shitty. I this has just kind of popped out at me. Literally just because I was talking about Endgame. It was like literally just because that was just the like most recent thing that popped into my head that
Yeah.
like people were going to love to spoil, and
Yeah.
people were going to love to talk about. It's just the most recent thing. I even still remember, and you probably will now, when we left, and like when our theater emptied,
Oh, yeah.
and there was a heap of people that were lining up, I turned to you and I just said, I desperately want to just shout out Tony Stark dies. Right? It's been seen by like a billion people, okay? If like, you know, like fuck off
I
if
know,
I've
I
just
know, bro.
spoiled it. But the point is that like it is just that like little bit of like divilment or just kind of like haha fuck you sort of thing. Like
Did you see that?
I obviously didn't. I just want to point that out. I did not do that. But the point is that the temptation was there. But like,
Did you see that old ass, really old, like early days of YouTube, like 10 years old, of when the book version of Harry Potter and the Half Blood Prince came out?
I know the one you're talking about. I haven't actually seen it, but I do
Okay.
know. Yeah.
So some fucker somehow got his hands on a bootleg early like review copy of it, and he did a drive-by spoiling of this. He drove by these poor children, these nerds lining up at midnight for the book. It wasn't even the film. They couldn't have possibly found out.
Yeah.
And
It was a brand new book release.
And just
like.
shouts out the window, "Snape kills Dumbledore." It's nearly 15 years old, people. It's not a spoiler at this stage, sorry.
Well, yeah.
But yeah. But just to tie back to what I was initially talking about, with the whole dichotomy between reviewer score and critic score. What do you look at personally? Do you take a measured mix of both, or do you favour one over the other, or what? Because just to add on to that question, because this is proof that the audience score can be untrustworthy, because these are people clearly who just rated it based on the leaks. They didn't play the game, they just rated it based on the leaks. However,
Yeah.
critic scores can also be tremendously misleading. Dave Chappelle's most recent special, was it Sticks and Stones, or am I getting a mix up with a different comedian?
I think that was like sorry, that's not his most recent special. His most recent special is 846. That was done after George Floyd. That was only done like I don't know like a fucking week ago.
Oh, that hasn't been broadcast yet, has it?
I'm not actually 100% sure about that.
My man, if
I know that that's like a thing, and that the title of his new special is known. Whether it's actually released or not yet, I don't actually know. I think that was his last special though.
Yeah, the one where he's in a green jumpsuit.
Yeah.
So, a bunch of people on Rotten Tomatoes in particular, they basically only let very, very progressive reviewers review that for whatever reason. I don't know why it was.
Okay.
And they gave it a 0 critic score. Dave Chappelle. You've seen it. It's hilarious.
Yeah. It's a very funny show.
And for the first week or so, it wasn't allowed to be opened up to public scores. As soon as it was, it jumped up to 95, 99, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's demonstrable evidence that both of these can be misleading and untruthful. So that,
but not only that, but can be so
easily manipulated,
miles apart.
Yeah,
is that the critics gave it 0, and yet the audience overwhelmingly, like almost 100%, loved it. So it's just like, yeah, it's the difference between look, everybody has their opinions at the end of the day, whether all or none of the spoilers for the Last of Us Part 2 end up true. Everybody is gonna like that package as a whole, whatever ends up happening. A review is it's literally saying whether or not you liked it, and that's a very subjective thing. Now, it can happen that you can have an overly biased critic group that don't like it, or it's where it's like 90% don't like it, and you have a critic score of like 15 or something like that. But the vast majority of the target audience for that thing love it, and you have 99% approval. The point is that like everybody is going to have their fucking strong opinions. Okay, everybody is going to have like their thoughts and what they like about it and what they don't like about it. I kind of take that approach, and just to kind of answer your question, I don't actually really look at either. Like you can kind of give me a list of my like top 5, top 10 games that I've ever played, ones that I like absolutely love and have played like fucking 50 times almost at this point. And I don't know what the Metacritic score on that is, because my opinion is my opinion. Like, I don't care if somebody doesn't like a game that I like, because it doesn't take away from my enjoyment of it even a little bit. I get why it's there, and I get that it's there to kind of give, a first-hand impression. If you see a game that has like a fucking Metacritic score of like 98, like one of the highest scores ever given, you see that and you're like, holy fuck, the chances are I'm probably going to like this game because it's been reviewed so brilliantly. And I get that it's there for that reason, but me, man, I'm just not like that. I don't care almost if my favorite game of all time is hated by you, or is hated by the next 10 people that I meet, because it's just my opinion, and that's what I like. That's the kind of main point that I'm kind of saying here. Whether I end up hating or loving the Last of Us Part 2, that's just my opinion.
Yeah. So how I approach the likes of Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes and that sort of thing is, if I'm kind of interested in an intellectual property and investing my money and time into it, I will generally use one of those as a first step in my due diligence as such. So if a game is like 50% or 0.5, whatever, half the people like it basically across the board on Metacritic, is probably a trash enough game. However, if it's above that and I'm still kind of interested in it, okay, I'm like, okay, this warrants further investigation. And so that further investigation leads me to go to people like ACG on YouTube.
Yeah.
And the reason I go to him is because I have identified him as having similar tastes in games as I do. And
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. I mean, Happy Console Gamer is like one that I will kind of go to because he's mm, uh he has a bigger tendency to like the kind of more JRPG and the types of games that I like. So I've kind it's basically the exact same thing. I've kind of identified him as somebody who has very similar tastes to me,
yeah,
and so that's why I kind of go to him, and like that's why I think it was a video by him actually that I sent to you.
You did,
of
yeah.
So
I didn't watch actually because I've been trying to not watch.
and that's totally fine. The only reason that I sent that to you is because he brought that out like a few days before the official release. So technically speaking, they couldn't talk about any story points. That's the only reason why I watched it. But yeah, it's literally just that I've kind of identified him as like a trusted source almost.
Yeah. For people wanting to get into YouTube, for a while I've actually thought that whole reviewing sphere is something that you can get into a niche in this market, and you can actually become quite successful in it, because as I've identified, the informed consumer, when it comes to reviews and like that, you eventually learn that what you like, and you gravitate towards reviews of people who also like the stuff you like, because something could be technically a masterpiece and you just wouldn't care for it that much. Okay, I'm going to go very nerdy in this. The sci-fi series Dune, Dune. It's the archetype for these massive sci-fi space opera type things. Basically, what inspired Star Wars. If you go to the majority of reviewers of sci-fi and fantasy books and that, they will laud and heap praises on Dune. It's basically they'll call it the Lord of the Rings of sci-fi.
Okay.
I do not care for it. It is a terribly dry and terrible book. If I was to purely go by what most reviewers say, I would believe them over my own taste, that kind of way. But the fact that I've identified a few particular reviewers that I gravitate towards, I know to kind of that's actually kind of a litmus test. Do they like Dune or not? If they don't like Dune, okay, I kind of like you. So you can do that for all kind of manner of different media, be it games, books, movies, films, whatever. And with that, it delineates and nichifies the market so much, so that once you have it become established and you can speak well, and you know what you're talking about, and you have your given opinion, and your opinion on the topic is known, people will trust you and will come back to you time and time again. And so if you want to get into YouTube, it could be a good avenue to get into it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of food for thought in the whole reviewing thing, especially since people are really moving away from in the gaming one. Just to kind of go back to that example, they're moving away from these big kind of centralized reviewers like IGN, GameSpot, and stuff like that, because they are largely just paid by the larger ones.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But haven't kind of pontificated enough about the difficult circumstances upon this game finds itself released into. Maybe we can talk a bit about our actual opinions of the game so far ourselves.
Well, what I was going to say to you is, would you like to leave that bit until the very, very end of the podcast?
Okay, yeah.
We'll heavily say this. We'll say it now, and we'll say it just before we do, and we'll potentially talk about some spoilers.
Okay, that's a much better.
Yeah. So it's basically why I'm leaving it until the end is because I can't say to you guys, we're doing this live, so hi, but I can't say to you, okay, mute it and skip forward a minute.
Yeah, because we don't know how long
we don't know how long we're going to talk about it. So I think the kind of best way to do it is just to put it at the very, very end. We're saying it now. We are going to be talking about some spoilers at the end of this podcast.
Yes.
We will say it several times before we start talking about it. So if we end up spoiling for it, you have only yourself to blame.
Good plan. Excellent plan. Excellent. So we'll move on to something else now.
Just to kind of very, very wrap up this, right?
Okay.
So, probably, and I mean this, genuinely, probably, my favorite game of all time is Final Fantasy X. Right? I have played that game, I don't know how many fucking, like, too much times. Many times.
You've bought it too many times.
I bought it too many times. I've bought it 3 times.
Mother of
3
Jesus.
times. Right?
Okay.
It has a Metascore of 84
Yeah.
and a user score of 8.3. Right? Which is fairly high.
So
okay? It's like
the
80
upper end,
above.
the upper end of average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 80 or above. And to some of the people that gave it, 10s because it's working on averages, I'm imagining.
Yeah.
To some of the people who gave it 10s, yeah, it's probably in their, top 10, top 20 games, right? The people who gave it like 5 or 6, they might play it if they were waiting for something else, they had nothing else to play,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It might be one of those. But this is just what I'm saying. It's just my personal opinion. It's it's just my favorite game. I love everything about it.
And that's the big thing about reviewing as well. I think that you can break it down to metrics in a certain sense, like how is the audio mixed, how does it look, how does the gameplay work, but ultimately the secret sauce is what is your opinion of it, of your subjective opinion of it, and that can't really be quantified down. You kind of had to know what kind of stuff the person talking actually likes, what stuff they kind of gravitate towards normally, and then you contextualize that in terms of what you like normally, and then you can put into terms that'll make sense to you what they're saying about a given game.
Yeah.
So we'll probably move on from game talk until the end of the show there now. For all the new listeners, this probably was a quite unusual topic for ourselves, but back in the day we used to do an awful lot more kind of pop culture games and movies talk. So we
used to do reviews. We used to go to the cinema, watch a movie, and then come back and do one of these podcasts and just talk about it and give a review. We used to do that.
We used to do that. It was good fun
So,
back in the day.
Yeah.
And I think the last game we reviewed on this was actually Uncharted 4, I think.
Was it Uncharted?
I think it was Uncharted 4, so the last Naughty Dog game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so whatever Naughty Dog is doing is making us do reviews of them.
I've got
or secret sauce they have.
Yeah. So the next one that we have is something that we talked about last week. It is brutality on the behalf of the police. So I actually thought that we were somewhat done with this topic, but there's been so much kind of more that has happened. There's been more cases, there's been more instances, there's been more examples of it happening. There is now a thread on Twitter. So I love Twitter. It's one of my favorite fucking social medias, right? There is a thread on Twitter that is more than 380 tweets long. Every single one of them is a video of clear, like, objective, like, not kind of, oh well, maybe this is not, or that this in all fairness, no, it is clear objective brutality on the police. There's more than 380 instances of it, and I think that the oldest one that is included in that thread was like 2 years ago. There is more than 120 of them that has happened since George Floyd.
Fuck. So 3 weeks, like?
3 weeks. And 120 cases of clear, objective police brutality.
And is it... Who's it against?
What do you mean, who's it against?
Is it across the board, or is it more directed towards people in the black community?
No, it's more across the board, and the only reason that is because I would say of those 120 tweets, like 90% of them has been at the protests that have been happening. So it's kind of maybe an inappropriate metaphor to use, but they've just been kind of like blanket bombing
Yeah.
You know, just everybody. They've been tarring everybody with the same brush. They've been treating everybody the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. It's just because of the particular climate that we find ourselves in, and the fact that all of these protests have been happening. So
Isn't it phenomenal that these protests are ultimately because of police brutality,
yeah,
and the police respond by being brutal?
Mm.
Okay, it's like a Monty Python sketch, isn't it?
yeah. There was I forget the actual group name, but it's basically the head of the police union, I guess, for want of a better word, in New York, gave a press conference. By the way, anybody who has been kind of even kind of keeping up to date with this knows exactly what I'm fucking talking about. He gave a speech, and it was in front of all of the media, and he had like 50 or so officers behind him, and he was the chief guy or whatever. And not only did he come across as a whiny little bitch, but he also clearly doesn't understand the meaning of irony. Because what he said in that speech is, he held up his badge, and he said, you know, this badge is not tainted, it's still shining. It's like what he did isn't a reflection on us. You know, the media has vilified us, social media has vilified us. We are not all thugs. We shouldn't be treated like animals, and you should give us some respect.
Playing the victim card.
Yes,
Yeah.
but also, somewhat ironically, doing exactly what the fucking black community has been asking for the last 20 fucking years. It's ridiculous. It's literally like, that's exactly what they are asking for. They are not animals. They are not crooks. They're not.
Yeah.
Like it's just beyond comical.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how the average cop reacts to people when they see them walking down the street, going to the other side of the street, and that type of behavior.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, the type of common everyday racism that is subject against the black community.
yeah, I mean, it will kind of look like the States was in like the 30s and 40s, except for black people, it's going to be police. You know, if they're walking down the sidewalk on the same side of the street as a cop, they're just going to cross over.
Yeah,
Because, like, look, it's objective to say that it's not all cops, okay? Because it's not.
Obviously
It's
not,
not fair to say that it's not all of them.
or that it is all of them.
Huh?
That it is all of them.
Yeah. But the like kind of main point here is that, like, it's not all of them, and there are good cops, but it's sort of like this idea of, you know, you're only as strong as your weakest link, and you're only as fast as your slowest mover and stuff like that. Like those are the ones that kind of stand out. Those are the ones that are kind of identified as the problems, or are identified as the weak points.
Yeah.
And those are the points that kind of stand out more than all of the good ones. And because it's very rare to kind of hear a story of, you know, something that a good cop did, and there are those examples out there. It's just they don't kind of get as much reach, or they don't get as much publicity as the cops doing the bad things do.
Yes.
And so yeah, I mean,
Which I would argue is the right state of affairs, because when cops when cops do good things, do you know what they're doing? Their job.
Yeah.
They're doing the job. When they're brutalizing people, when they're strangling them to death, when they're shooting them directly with the rubber bullets, when it has been when the makers of fucking rubber bullets say you bounce it off the people in front of them so that it ricochets and hits them, but they're just shooting them directly at people.
Yeah.
When they're just doing stuff that is intentionally excessively brutal.
Yeah.
They're not doing their jobs. So that's why it should be highlighted.
Yeah, I mean, like, people have said like that you can kill someone with a rubber bullet if you hit them in the head, because at the right range. I can't remember exactly what it's like, but it's like a meter, meter and a half, 2 meters, or something like that. It's like something on those lines. If you shoot somebody in the head with a rubber bullet, because it's a short distance, if it's a short enough distance, the force that the bullet is firing at you causes bone fragments on the inside of your skull to break off and to lodge itself in your brain.
I go as far as it doesn't even need to be that much. It's just
no, but I'm just saying that like that's like that's even one where it's not. It might not leave. It might not cause the person to like bleed and it goes down like down their face, that kind of thing. It might not do that, but it's still it's still killing them.
Yeah, it'll cause internal bleeding and hemorrhaging and stuff like that. Here's a question I've never had. Right, I know the optics on this particular method of riot control are bad in the States. But why don't they use, now I'm not saying about high pressure, low pressure water cannons, like against actual rioters, not protesters, actual rioters? Because who the fuck wants to do something when you're soaking wet?
Yeah, I mean,
soaking
you have
wet,
you have a point,
and then you'll get a little bit chilly, and then you don't want to go home. That's
and because it's chilly and because your clothes are sticking to you, that's just uncomfortable, and you just want to go home and sort out that problem.
What if you're slightly fat and it shows your moves off?
You go, see, look, I'm telling you, there's an awful lot of problems in here. There's an awful lot of negatives in here that you have to sort out.
Yeah.
And the way that you sort those out is that you go home.
You go home, yeah, exactly. You go home. None of this resolves in long-term damage.
Yeah.
Fucking, I don't. I was going to say something else about the whole police thing. It's completely gone from my head. Oh, you keep talking, though. I might come up with it. You're on the spot there. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, look, I mean, we kind of said like a lot of our bigger and main points last week, and so it's. The only kind of thing that I can kind of say on this is that this concept is just I can only kind of say this again, that this concept is so ludicrously foreign to us, and it's so ludicrously like it's appalling anyway, but it just comes across as almost worse for us because this just doesn't happen here.
No.
I could, if I was being arrested, right, which has never happened to me, thank Christ, but if I was, and irregardless of what it's about, irregardless of what crime or whatever, if I fought back, if I ran away, if I did any of the things that typically more right-leaning people will use to justify a killing by the cops, I wouldn't be killed. I would probably say, yeah, okay, I've made myself look more guilty.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't have done that. It's not going to look good for me in the long run. They're probably going to use this against me in court, but I'm not going to fear my life.
No.
And that's the kind of biggest point here is that like that's just completely off the table.
Yeah. What strikes me so utterly weird is that when people have conversations about, is this a justified shooting, when they're shooting somebody who's in the back who's fleeing.
Yeah.
And like, what? Okay, so the only reason you should reasonably have to shoot a person as a cop is if your life is in imminent danger or a civilian's life is in imminent danger. If an unarmed suspect is running away from you, like, okay, so you shoot him in the back so he doesn't get away but he dies.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
what was the
even in that instance, and this is me like giving all the concessions in the world.
Yeah. In
that instance, if you have the choice between them fleeing and you never catch them and they constantly do it for like every day for the next years until they die, right? Or you have to shoot them. Shoot them in the fucking legs. Shoot them in the leg. Because if you shoot them in the leg, they're going to fucking hobble away. And even if you're a fat ass cop, you're going to eventually fucking catch up to them.
I'm going to come up with this, and this will actually tie into the point that I've remembered. But this comes down to the training, right? I know for a fact that cops are taught to, and any kind of marksmanship student is taught to aim, in self-defense purposes, taught to aim for centre mass.
Yeah.
Because it's the most likely target and most likely to drop the subject. It's harder to hit something in the legs, smaller target, and also you should only shoot somebody if the intent is to kill them. So that being drilled into them over and over, I assume training just takes over. Now, having said that, I do think there is a phenomenal lack of the correct type of training in the cops.
Yeah.
I heard a very good solution to this problem actually. Did you catch? It was during the week, maybe about 6-7 days ago. Did you catch the Joe Rogan Experience where he had Jocko Willink on?
No, didn't catch that one. No.
So Jocko Willink, he's a former Navy SEALs commander. I've linked you to videos of him before. He's the very inspirational person who talks to Mike like this. He looks like the Doom guy.
Yeah.
Very, very macho looking fellow. But he's a very intelligent fellow as well. And former Navy SEALs commander. He finished out his career in the military by essentially being the guy that trains other leaders to become better leaders.
Okay.
And he's done the same thing with his private career. He goes around teaching CEOs, managers how to effectively better leaders and better manage their teams and stuff like that. His solution to an awful lot of the police violence and brutality is that 1/5 of the cops' time should be training. All the time. Be that every Monday you train, be that from 2 hours out every given day you train. It should be 1/5 of your time. You have to train. And you train very specific scenarios. These very high pressure scenarios where you're more likely to fuck up, but that you're not likely to come across very often. You drill it over and over and over again, so that when you eventually do come across these scenarios, you're less likely to commit like a brutal act out of panic and out of lack of training. And that just rang true to me. And this is where the idea of defund the police this is not the solution to me as far as I see it. Reallocation of funding should be the way to do it. At the minute, there's much of the funding to the police, like the over-the-top funding, goes towards the toys that they have, the paramilitary toys, armored personnel carriers, and with 50 caliber machine guns on them. What in the hell is the point of a civilian police force? Why should they possibly need that? If it comes to this, if they're in bad enough state that they need those weapons, the army will be called in.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So reallocate those funds. Stop bumping up the military industrial complex even more, and actually put those funds into training, into the constant training. Because if you're going to have an armed police force, that's what you need to have.
Yeah. I mean, I don't take issue with anything that you said there. I mean, like constant, like ongoing training.
Yeah.
Is yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things that, I mean, like in a lot of different professions, you do just need that.
Yeah.
And like whether it's ongoing training or whether it's like ongoing support, even if you want to kind of like broaden it up to that. I mean, like in the profession that I'm gonna go into to be a therapist. If any of you have ever been to therapy, if any of you have ever kind of like thought about going, but is kind of like scared of the concept, there is not a single therapist who is not in therapy. Every single one of them.
Makes sense.
Because it's a tough fucking job.
Yeah.
And it makes absolutely no sense at all in the world ever to take on all of this, personal stories and personal accounts and everything else like that, and to not. It's extremely hard to be able to hear all that, to personalize it, and to be able just to deal with it and just move on with life. It's extremely difficult to do that. So it's not even necessarily like breaking patients, it's if a therapist is in therapy, they're not talking specifically about you. If they're talking about your story or something that you have disclosed to them, they will change minor details. They will of course change your name. There's like nothing about it that on your end is going to get leaked or is going to kind of trace back to you. And that's the kind of main point here, is that it's people in jobs, depending on what they are, they do need help, and they do need like that constant routine of bettering themselves. Maybe that's kind of how far you can kind of broaden it up to. Every therapist is in therapy, and every cop should get regular training.
Yeah, it'd be analogous to, say you had a brain surgeon in the 1970s who did their schooling. He's an old surgeon. At the stage he did his schooling in the 1930s. If he was still prescribing lobotomies to people, because he never got continual training, he didn't upskill himself continually. It'd be that same analogy, but if you apply that, but that does apply to the police force, because they still, like, the toys have changed, but the methodology hasn't.
Yeah,
you hit the criminals, you shoot the criminals. You don't try to de-escalate. That seems to be quite a foreign concept to the United States cops.
Yeah.
Cops over here will always just de-escalate. That's what they do. They're very well trained in that.
Yeah.
That type of thing. They talk. The best weapon you have to stop violence is speech.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name specifically, but I heard a dissenting caller to the idea that police brutality is an issue last week state that if you have a man, say, with an axe or a machete or something, you do need some sort of force. At an absolute last resort, I think. You need that if he's rushing you with said weapon. If he's just brandishing it, well, we have many steps to de-escalate from there.
Yeah.
We don't need to shoot the man.
Yeah. And that's actually going to lead on to one of the other topics that I have, is that there was a case in England where a guy was... I'm not overly... I don't know the details of the entire case. I just know what happened in this case. I don't know if he was... So, like... I don't know if he was robbing. I don't know if he was just deranged and was just out in public. But he had a machete. There was 4 cops. 4 of them. They de-escalated the situation entirely.
Yeah.
They saved 1 life, and the guy brandishing the weapon didn't die.
Yeah. That's how these situations should resolve themselves.
Yeah.
Because if they don't, okay, if it's acceptable in public that, okay, yeah, this guy, he was doing this and that, he was a threat. Yes, he was a threat, branding a machete, a threat.
Yeah.
But he wasn't an imminent threat, as in approaching him with an overhand swing with the machete. He wasn't doing that, presumably. Because if he was...
I can only say presumably,
okay,
because but yeah.
Yeah. But if they were only a supposed threat, and it's okay for the cops to shoot this threat, then we're just okay. As a society, we're saying that we're okay with assigning the role of judge, jury, and executioner to the
Yeah.
cops, because that just bypasses due process entirely.
Yeah.
It's just exactly. It's just what it is. Like, you know, just yes, that is what it is. I wouldn't be the type to think that you need to disarm cops, especially in the States. I don't think that's it.
Yeah, I mean, in the
The culture over there
States, that's
doesn't-
just
no.
unrealistic. It's
Yeah.
totally unrealistic.
It's as unrealistic as disarming the populace.
Yeah, well, that's why
Yeah.
it's unrealistic, because if you send the cops out there and they don't have a gun, and yet there are more guns than people in the United States,
Yeah.
that's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I've heard.
You know?
It's just I've heard that. Did your cameras go off? Is there a flash in your camera?
I think so.
Are you getting hacked, Stephen?
I'm unaware.
Okay, so just for the listening public, the camera on Stephen's webcam just went off
Just there.
and flashed. Yeah, just there. Yeah. So we're currently investigating to see if we're getting hacked and perhaps being looked at by some pervert over the internet.
That's most odd.
As a party, listeners, you're not perverts over the internet. You're valued audience.
That's never happened before.
No, do you have a bit of sticky tape you can put over the camera?
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, we're
Give
just
me a moment.
yeah. Happening live. Stephen is hack-proofing his PC by putting a bit of sticky tape over the camera.
I'm going to be taking this off tomorrow because I'm going on camera for MDD, but
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
just for now.
Yeah, this is totally derailed what we were talking about, audience. But it is what it is when the camera flashes mightily, unexpectedly. So
I thought it was the fucking lightning again.
no, it's just the curtains are closed.
Well, no, it's just literally just last week we had fucking lightning. Just say this into the microphone because they probably can't.
Yeah,
hear it
so-
from the system.
yeah,
it's just last week we had lightning, so that's literally just what I thought it was. It was
Yeah.
again.
We've been experiencing unseasonable lightning storms here in Ireland, so it's either lightning or it's a hacker pervert. It's one or the other. So we can't.
Hopefully neither. Let's just be fair.
I mean, we can't stop lightning, but we can't stop hacker perverts. So that's what we're going to try to do here. I do hope you're enjoying this little diversion to normal talk.
Okay, so I have the sticky tape now. I just have to find it. That's going to take about 3 hours. But we all know how that works.
Yes. Yes. Who invented sticky tape so that as soon as you finish using it, it welds itself into the roll so that it can never be found again?
It actually took me a remarkably short amount of time.
Very good. You're gonna want to take a couple of strips of it just so it, to maximize the opacity of it, do you know? Or smear it up with your thumb first.
Huh?
Smear the sticky tape up with your thumb first to make it
I'll
more
just do that.
opaque. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give the camera my fucking thumbprint. Yeah. Just give him my fingerprint, like, as well as fucking hacking me and know what the back of my head looks like. Because that's what they would have seen, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I was facing you,
Yeah.
so they would literally just see the fucking back of my head. But anyway.
Well, they got a good look at me, but I'm fully clothed, so I don't really care. Like,
Yeah.
there we go. There we go. We're safe now.
Fucking spy on us now, fuckers.
We're safe now. Sorry about that. That was some diversion. That was.
That was completely unforeseen. This is probably why people don't just like go live so that they can edit all of this out.
Yeah, probably all this horseshit. But when we're talking about, we'll stay on police brutality for a little bit longer. Why have people stopped talking about Hong Kong? Exactly.
Yeah, it's it's one of those really, really weird. But yeah, it like people literally just kind of stopped. It was this kind of big thing, and we're talking about the rights that people in Hong Kong should have, and like whether they should be protesting and whether they shouldn't be. And yeah, it was kind of news when it happened, and even kind of more people were kind of talking about it even like a month or two on. But just kind of all of us, just nobody's talking about it anymore. Yet it's still happening.
The protest started in like, was it July of last year?
Yeah, so it's literally almost 12 months,
almost a whole year.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if something over in the Western world, if protests lasted that long and nothing was done? It wouldn't happen.
No,
it wouldn't happen. Do you know why? Do you know why it is?
Why?
Because their leaders don't have to fear re-election.
Yeah.
They get nominated by a committee and the committee themselves get nominated by, who knows? Just the grand wizards of communism, apparently. But so they have nothing to fear about getting re-elected, and so they just don't give rat's arse.
Yeah.
You looked at me like I had two heads there for a while.
No, sorry, I was a little bit I was just kind of daydreaming there, sorry. But yeah, it's just that if they don't have to fear getting re-elected, then they don't have to then like what's incentivizing them to give the people change?
Yeah, exactly.
If they know that they're still going to be there in like 5 years, what reason have they?
None.
There you go.
Literally none.
Yeah.
That's an interesting Hong Kong. That's an interesting thing, wasn't it? Until was it 99? That's when the lease from Britain had from mainland China ran out, wasn't it? Something around then.
Something like that. Yeah.
That's a mad thing, isn't it? Leasing a country or part of a country. Like, could you imagine doing that these days? Like, just like Ireland going we're leasing Wales. How long? 100 years.
Yeah.
And then the country going, okay. It was that thing like just looking back on these old school, old world way of doing things. Like in retrospect, it's just funny. Like leasing. Even the concept, like it's a horrible thing, like colonization and stuff like that. But just fucking going over somewhere and saying, I know you were here beforehand, but no, it's actually ours now.
But yeah.
Did you not get the memo? Fuck's sake, the mad bastards back in the day. They didn't give a fuck. They didn't care.
You see, like this is what I'm saying. It's like people will say now that they like do drugs, right? And in that category of drugs, you'll have some people who will say that they take cocaine, right? But what I don't think that people have realized is that the stuff that you're taking is shit. And the reason that I know that it's shit is because in the past, Queen Victoria, right, took a line of coke. And the reason that I know that the stuff that you guys are taking is because absolutely none of you have ever taken a line of coke, gone, let's invade India. None of you have ever done that. It's never happened. It's just never. So like it's just that concept. Like you have to be high to be able to do that. I'm sorry.
You have to be.
That has to be. That's not just something that you think.
No.
That's something that's like brought on as a result of taking something.
Yes, drugs were better back in the days. That's what I'm getting from this.
Well, yeah. Well, some were.
No, they were. Do you know definitely what drug was definitely better back in the day?
What?
Meth. Do you know why?
Yeah, probably.
Do you know why I know this?
Okay, go on.
Because fueled by meth, Germany waged war against the world and almost won. They almost won. Hitler was methed out of his mind the whole time, methed out and coke and steroids and everything. It literally was. The stormtroopers were on meth the whole time so they could march and fight and kill.
Sorry, did you just say the stormtroopers?
That's what they were called. Google it.
I That's a very odd name, given the modern connotation of that.
Where do you think it came from? Like,
Well, I don't fucking know.
I will Google it now, but
I believe you don't
Okay.
have to Google it. I'm
Okay.
just saying I hadn't heard that before, and it's very funny because I thought that you had misspoke. I'm talking with fucking stormtroopers. Yeah,
I'm sure it's
sorry.
for Ubenraffenhagen, Hagen. There's probably the actual name of it, or some
Well-
German thing, but translated, I think the stormtrooper, shock trooper, that type of thing. Like,
Oh,
I don't believe it.
see, I've heard of shock trooper.
Yeah.
I've heard of that. I just
Yeah.
hadn't heard of like stormtrooper in that context. So that's why I was a little bit. I don't know.
I'm 50-50 as to whether or not I've misspoken. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. I don't know. But the concept stands.
I
Whether
mean,
whether storm or shock, they were on meth.
Yeah.
That's the fact. And people listening, even though you shouldn't even do it once, maybe you've done meth. You have never tried to kill all the Jews.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. All I know is I'm just happy that weed is as strong as it is now. Because as we all know from one of our favorite comics, Louis C.K.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you could just smoke a joint for a while, but now you just go insane after like 2 pulls. It's fantastic.
Yeah, because apparently people, they just turn into scientists about it. They've put
Yeah,
they've
yeah,
applied.
Yeah.
So that no, this is what happened. This is how it happened, Stephen. I've no evidence about this, but I know this is how it happened. So, for millennia, weed was the thing that you just puff away on a little bit here and there, and just go about your day and have your civil conversation until it was criminalized. Obviously, before that, that's what you did. You just puffed away. And it's probably. Even if you read Tolkien, he references weed. I'm not joking. So it was common stuff.
Okay.
But what happened in the 60s, it made its way to California. And it made its way to the universities. And the smart people. And the scientists. The scientists got involved with their lab coats. And their petri dishes. And their retractors. And their flasks.
You're just naming science equipment now.
Yeah, I'm naming science paraphernalia. That's it. But yes, but that's actually how, and then they made it far stronger than it ever had been before.
Yeah, because like,
That's where all strong weed comes from, isn't it? California. All the OG Kush, that's California. That's one of the first strong ones, isn't it?
yeah. Most of the Californian weed, it's like one of the most like sought after. Like Cali shit, like is what people call it here. Like,
Tell you.
yeah. If it has the word Cali in front of it, I mean, you're like probably only gonna pay like. You're probably only gonna get like a gram for 50.
Allegedly, yeah.
Yeah, allegedly.
Yeah.
But so it's a very, very well, it's rare here, but it's extremely good. It's extremely strong.
Wonder will it ever get legal?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Sources have alleged.
Yeah.
We're not even alleging it. Our people we might or may not know have alleged it.
I'm friends with a lot of people on Discord.
Yeah,
it's it's plausible.
Yeah. We're looking at the 5th or 6th bacon number of alleged at this stage. What we're talking about. Nothing substantial linked to us at all.
No.
At all.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
Were you going to say if it's ever going to be legalized here?
Yeah.
Fucking hope so.
Yeah, I can't see the two big fellas, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil. They're for people unfamiliar with Irish politics, which is everybody listening.
Yeah.
Fine Gael
and part of me, to be fair.
Yeah. Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil are the two big ones in Irish politics, and economically they're basically identical. They will differ socially on certain points, but they don't differ in the ways that they do in the States. Whereas some points that Fine Gael will support will be considered right leaning in the States, where at some points that Fianna Fáil support would be considered right leaning in the States. So they're a real mishmash of stuff, which equates to them being essentially the same. Like for the average everyday person, they are the same. So if anybody really needs a change up, we kind of need someone else. To be honest, in Ireland, we need like someone else. But the awful thing about Irish politics is that the only competent politicians, unfortunately, are those in Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil. Because when you get outside of that, you just get weird ass independent politicians and Sinn Féin. And like Sinn Féin, God bless their souls, they did really well in the last election. But for those of you unfamiliar again, Sinn Féin are the ones that are really closely linked with the Irish Republican Army, the IRA, a named international terrorist group, and an awful lot of their members, their more provincial members, say, are very proud of that fact still to this day. So they have a really bad optics issue. So the core might be kind of competent, but it's just the soldiers are shit at it.
Yeah.
So until we can get, like, we might as well just amalgamate Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil into the same party.
Yeah.
As centre. Until we get other people outside of it that have an actual claim as an opposition, things will continue to creep forward in bits and pieces here in Ireland.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, look, I obviously hope that it gets legalized as kind of fast as possible. Just because I want it to be, and if it was, I would smoke it on the regular. But
I mean, I would too, as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would. Just because it was just like, well, fuck it, it's legal.
Imagine how many livers that would save here in Ireland.
Oh my god, yeah. That's a good argument.
It's a really good argument.
You should write a letter.
Yeah,
you should write a letter.
Write a letter
to the government
and
to all of them, not just one. To all of them.
To the Taoiseach.
Yeah.
to the Prime Minister himself. And
just be like, just think about the livers you'll save if you legalize the marijuana.
Yeah. But then I'd face fierce opposition from big liver operation surgeons. They just their livelihood.
No. Oh, sure, be gone.
Be fucked, be gone, over. But yeah, it'd be class. This actually kind of, I think we're gone past the point of making smooth transitions at this stage. We're kind of rambling from point to point, but it's grand. I think it's better than where we were at start. What are your opinions on legalization of? I'm not talking about decriminalization. I'm talking about straight up legalization of drugs in general.
Of all drugs?
Yeah. Do you think there should be distinctions made? If so, why?
Yeah, and I think that they okay, so there should I find this question kind of difficult to answer, and the only kind of reason why I do is because you've kind of said, you know, all, because you've used that word all, and I get why, but like there are kind of like life altering drugs that are only detrimental to your health, you know, like be it in the short term or in the long term. And I think that legalizing that and normalizing it in a way and creating easy access to a drug of that description is probably not the, you know, safest thing to do.
So let's contextualize this and give examples of what these drugs are.
So the likes of, you know, heroin, meth, opioids, if you want to kind of include the
OxyContins and the tablets and stuff like that.
Yeah, like those,
even though they are technically legal, but they're not legal for recreational purposes.
Yeah, I mean, I think something like yeah, like I mean, well, I mean, I obviously think that weed should be legal.
What about cocaine?
I think cocaine gets a bad rap. No, I think if you could like if you do a more of is it Switzerland or is it Norway? I'm not sure which one of the two, but it's definitely in Portugal. If you kind of follow that model of kind of supervised taking of drugs, that's probably not but anyway.
Where they have centers where people can go and take their drugs and be monitored by medical professionals.
Yeah. Like that's kind of like it's kind of obviously like a preferred way of doing it, because if anything goes wrong, there's medical professionals there and kind of ready to
clean needles.
Yeah. I don't know. In short, no, I don't support I don't support making all drugs legal. I would support decriminalizing all drugs.
Okay.
But I don't know. I wouldn't say legalization.
Okay, so decriminalization, what does that look like to you?
Basically, that if you're caught with drugs, that you don't necessarily face prison time.
Is the same to be said for selling them?
Yeah, because it's a good way of making a living. No, I mean, if the possession is decriminalized, then sure. I mean, like, if you're pulled over, so like, let's say that having it is legal, but selling it is illegal.
Yeah.
Well, sure, if a guard pulls you over and they say, well, I mean, like, what are you doing with a fucking ounce of coke in the boot? Oh, no, I'm going to use that myself. Obviously, that's what you're going to say.
Yeah.
You're hardly going to say, no, I was actually in the process of breaking the law. I'm on the way to his house now. So
that's actually what the... I don't know if you know this. Weirdly enough, the laws as relates to anabolic steroids in England are very much different from here in Ireland. You can actually own them for personal use legally. The guards can pull you over, and it's like, what's that there on your passenger seat, your needles and your whatever? It's like, yeah, that's my steroids. It's as you can see, it's just enough for me. But if you're going to sell them, then it's illegal.
Oh.
So would that be maybe the model you'd like to look at? Or?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Okay, so there's some things that maybe you should look at, but decriminalizing in that fashion would still allow the use and the gradual normalization of the use of the likes of your heroin, your meth, and...
Well, I kind of, in a way, think that drugs should be destigmatized, and that it should lose the kind of extreme negative side of them, because keeping drugs as like, you know, the kind of the big bad boogeyman, and, you know, of like something to be, you know, feared, and of something to be, you know, turned away from. It makes it extremely hard for addicts who want to get help to come forward and not be judged.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, even if you think about it now, you know, if you have... And it's not just here in Ireland as well, but I mean, like, the kind of generalized perception of somebody who is homeless, just for example, is always probably a drunk or always probably an addict.
Yeah.
It's a negative. It's never seen as, oh, he's a drunk, oh, he's an addict. It's always negative, and it's always seen as the consequences of drugs are negative. Now, whereas that is a realistic approach and that is a realistic opinion to have, we shouldn't ever have drugs to such a level of stigma that people feel uncomfortable about coming forward and saying, I have a problem,
Mm.
I want to get help, and I want to get, I want to solve this issue that I have.
Is that the case? So are they destigmatized? Are they stigmatized to the point where they can't come forward for that help? Do you think?
I mean, NA exists. It's basically AA for drugs. Just in case. Yeah, yeah. And yes, it does exist. But it's still kind of okay. I want to get to a place. I want to get to a world where if you find out that somebody that you know has a problem with drugs and that they go to seek help for it, that it's not gossiped about.
Mm.
If you hear about, if you hear about a family member, if you hear about a friend of yours that's going to rehab, it's like, oh, okay. That's what I want the reaction to be. It's just, okay.
Okay, so
it's not seen as like, oh, fuck, like what? It's...
Can I unpack this?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd argue that we're not even there with alcohol.
Yeah. I'd say that we have an awful lot of work to do, but...
Right, so... And alcohol has permeated all levels of society.
Mm.
So if we're not there with something that you can buy in a supermarket, how are we going to get there with something you have to buy from a fellow behind the supermarket, not in the supermarket?
Well, I mean, obviously kind of do it in... I wouldn't even say do it in like baby steps or kind of take it like one issue at a time. I would kind of say like tackle all of them together. So, but like obviously kind of recognize the drop off point for alcohol and kind of move that effort to then something else. So if you finally normalize the idea of, sometimes people just have an addictive personality, or sometimes people go through trauma, or like whether it is like a different type of psychological issue that deems it necessary for you to have a drink to be able to basically function in life. If that idea is kind of widespread, and if it's understood, and if it's kind of seen as not even necessarily like a normal thing, but not something to be ashamed of and not something to judge someone for, then it becomes easier, because like you will have people who will admit that they're an alcoholic, who will say that when they're coming out to their friends or when they're coming out to their family, it's a thing that they have to build themselves up for, and it's a thing that like it's they would say that they would feel like an awful lot of shame or an awful lot of pressure, or of like, how are my family gonna react? Are they gonna judge me? Are they gonna kick me out? Are they gonna do... We need to get to a point where if somebody discloses that they have an addiction to drugs or to alcohol, that they never fear the negative side and they only get support.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because it's seen as a huge personal failing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Personal failing in judgment. Okay. To unpack it, you're not necessarily that, oh, you're the guy who gets drunk and makes a mess of himself. It's that you're the guy who doesn't know when to stop. You're the guy who does it all the time. You're the guy who doesn't have the judgment not to do it. Okay, so if you don't have the judgment not to do that, what else don't you have the judgment to do? That perception is applied to all the other aspects of their life.
Yeah.
So that's why it's hard. I'm unpacking what you said. That's why it's hard. So, and the unfortunate thing is possibly that's not, they aren't groundless accusations. Like if somebody does have a fairly addictive personality in that regard, even if they take one thing, it's quite possibly that something else will consume them to a negative degree. So it's a kind of a bit of both, in terms of people should be able to feel free to come out and seek the help that they want. But also society aren't totally bigoted, quote unquote, for having the views that they have.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Mm.
I see where you're coming from.
So how do you go about changing public perception?
Well, I mean,
That's probably a hard question. We'll see how you
Yeah,
how
it's-
deal with it.
it's sort of like, I mean, you can kind of look at at examples in history, you know, and you can say that here in Ireland, I mean, like something, the like concept of a mixed marriage a very long time ago was was unfathomable. It was unthinkable. You couldn't possibly do that
Defining mixed marriage for an international audience in an Irish context.
in an Irish context. I mean,
Yeah.
like that's like a Catholic and a fucking Protestant.
Yes, that's what I
But-
mean. Like that's what I mean. Like yeah.
But any sort of like a mixed race marriage a long time ago was seen as unthinkable. You couldn't possibly do that. Something like a same sex marriage 50 years ago was something like unthinkable. Couldn't possibly. It's the kind of normalization of, you know what, like, it's the kind of corny shit of, you know, like, love is love and it doesn't see color and doesn't see gender, it doesn't see any of these things. If a white person and a black person want to, you know, fall in love and make a family and get married and whatever, they should absolutely be allowed to. And it's just that same kind of process of just normalizing the idea that, you know, two people of the same gender love each other and want to get married. It's the normalization of, through a myriad of different factors, or maybe it's just, you know, one, that people can get addicted to certain substances, and if they do, the correct or the best position is not to judge them, is not to, you know, blame them, but to help them.
Interesting. It does appear that unfortunately the way to get more public acceptance is for more people to come forward as such.
Yeah.
But as you stated, there's such a massive roadblock in it. So as I see it, we're kind of a catch-22 in it. As in, like, yeah, the way for acceptance is for more people to come forward, but more people don't want to come forward because there's such a stigma attached to it. And unlike the likes of mixed marriages, same-sex marriage and stuff like that, it's not a huge tangible benefit to actually come forward for it. Like, as in, you don't have, okay, if I come forward for this, I have a loving relationship. It's like, if I come forward for this, it's me acknowledging a failing in my life and me seeking help
That's
for
the
it.
problem.
Yeah. Failing. Right.
Get that out of the public perception.
Okay, maybe I do
Because
have...
it's not necessarily, I'm not even necessarily blaming you or saying that you are of this opinion, but just get that idea. That's the idea that we have to change. That it's not a failing.
I see where you're coming from. I think it's a tricky one to hurdle. Only, like, for alcohol even, and especially for all these other things. It'll be so tricky to overcome it.
Yeah.
But let's go back to a more itemized question. So we're in agreement that because weed is basically as or probably less harmful than alcohol, that logically
It should be legal.
just for talk's sake, what else should be legal? Legal. Do you want me to go?
Probably shrooms.
I was about to say, yeah, shrooms and DMT and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to overdose on that, really, are they? No one's going to take it to excess.
Yeah. I think like Yeah, like shrooms, truffles, DMT. I think that I was trying to see if I could think of a different one or of another one. Yeah, I think that like those should probably be legal
Mm.
because DMT might actually be the kind of hardest case to make. But I mean, like with shrooms and truffles, you're basically just saying like, dude, you're just going on a trip for an hour. Just like,
Yeah.
just stop. Like,
I think DMT is one that was most recently criminalized.
yeah,
Even back into late 90s, I think it's late 90s, early 2000s, you could literally, as a person, buy it. But you had to say you're buying it for research purposes, but you can still buy it, like.
yeah.
So that's the way that is flipped so quickly. What's that party? What's the technical term for ecstasy? What's that? Which one's that? Is that MDMA?
No,
I'm getting confused. I don't know my drugs nomenclature that very well.
no. MDMA is different from ecstasy entirely. They're
Is it?
completely different things.
Okay. Which one? Ecstasy is the rave one,
Yeah, yeah.
as far as I know. The one,
Yeah.
the one that you take on the bit of paper.
No, it's a it's a tablet.
Viewers, in case you're wondering, I don't take drugs. I don't know.
I
about
don't.
drugs.
I haven't taken ecstasy. I just like I just know what what it looks like.
Okay. So so the rave one, whatever.
Hmm.
As far as I can tell, that's another one that should be legal, I think, because all the cases I've heard of people dying from it is from taking spiked doses of it.
Yeah.
Or it's other shit mixed in.
Yeah,
And regulation.
or they just take like way too much of it.
yeah, same as you can do drink.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so it's like standardization and regulations will fix that issue. Like so, I'm trying to think what else. I'm only drilling into it this extent because your personal hero Bernie Sanders has actually made the distinction himself between weed and other things.
yeah.
So,
He didn't always.
what did you say?
He wrote a paper in the late 70s where he called for legalizing all drugs. Now, you can give him the kind of benefit of the doubt and say that some of the new age drugs weren't around in the late 70s, and that's true. But
Well, heroin is still there.
yeah, look, I don't agree with everything that Bernie has said, but and that's not even me kind of like backpedaling or anything. It's like literally just he's almost come to my position on that issue where he is now, or he's closer to my position.
I'm gonna point a very controversial question to you now. Controversial in the sense of the show that we do. So, up until the late 19th century, I think basically all drugs were legal in the US, weren't they? For personal use.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I don't believe rampant drug use was an issue in society, even given that. I mean, people took it. People, like, there were alcoholics and people who went to opium dens and stuff like that, but they were still on the fringes of society, right? So, a form of morality that we've kind of agreed on in the past is that it is kind of, it's based on the wrongs that you do need to be the wrongs that affect other people in order to be considered immoral. Okay, but morality based on the Bible is based on a whole other stuff, isn't it? Like, you don't, like, mixed cloth doesn't affect other people,
Yeah.
but it's still immoral according to the Bible.
Yeah.
Do you think that the morality derived from the Bible back in the day is what stopped people from imbibing too much in drugs when it was legal?
Possibly, yeah, because you're talking about a very
An indoctrinated populace.
religiously influenced point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with with people becoming far more much less religious. Every generation is less religious. It's a known fact. Do you think the model that worked back then could work now, or no?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
You think so?
Mm.
Interesting. No, that's just something I wanted to throw out there.
Yeah.
It's just a thought that occurred to me a while back. But yeah, we've been talking about drugs long enough. Do you want to talk about something else?
Sure. Sorry, I have my next topic there.
I think we meandered
Yeah.
through a few of those by accident.
Yeah, we did actually. Yeah. So the Supreme Court recently made two brilliant votes, which is they voted to protect Dreamers for now, for the next 2 years, I believe. But they also voted to protect trans rights in the workplace. So basically, it was the case that in 26 states, it was legal for an employer to fire you because you were transgender. Because of the Supreme Court ruling, very much like in it was either 2014 or 2014, I think. Very much like when the Supreme Court ruled on same-sex marriage, it is now legal in all 50 states. Well, that was legal in all 50 states. It is now illegal in every single state to fire somebody based on their gender identity.
As it should be.
Absolutely, as it should be. So yeah, so like this was a massive win for equality and for people who are transgender. It's I mean it's like literally, it's basic to me. It's like just like they can't help it any more than somebody who is gay or bisexual can,
Or tall or short.
So yeah, I mean it's like literally having a conversation on, well, should we fire this person? Why? He's too short.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
Literally,
it's like, well, like, no, obviously if he can still do the job and they're still there on time and they're still, they work hard, whatever, absolutely why would you fire them? It just doesn't make any sense.
The only answer to that is bigotry.
Yeah,
That's the only reason you would do it.
yeah. So basically, I can't remember the state where it came from, but there was a trans woman who was fired because she was trans, and she sued her employer, and it made its way up to the Supreme Court. And it was based on the ruling there that kind of affected all of the states.
Yeah, that's just a no-brainer. Like my own personal opinions on the whole trans thing is a bit mixed. I won't go into the nitty-gritty of it now. But regardless of what I think personally, I do think that they should be given the same rights as me.
Yeah,
and that's ultimately what should be implemented, I think.
yeah,
Like maybe just the way of raised, maybe of inherent biases or whatever, but sometimes I do find it it's such a foreign concept to me. I'll admit that it's such a foreign concept to me. I've a hard time getting my head around it, and that makes me feel kind of a bit uncomfortable about addressing the issue head on. But just because I'm uncomfortable about it, I'm sure the person who is trans is, well, not necessarily uncomfortable, but inconvenienced in their everyday life just because of who they are.
yeah,
So it's like, okay, let's look at who's more put out by a law that allows employers to fire you just for that one personal opinion.
yeah.
Not your opinion, one personal aspect of your life. So yeah, it's no
Yeah, it's I mean, we have some differences on the issue of trans, not even rights, because that's not the right word, because I don't think we do.
The only thing we could possibly when do you think people should be able to undergo trans surgery?
18.
Yeah, we don't have any issue then. We're saying.
I think that like if the child wants to, that they should be that they can go on blockers. Do we maybe not agree on that?
I think more study needs to be done on it. People in favour of it tend to point to the same handful of studies, and
well, could the argument be made that that's because only a handful of studies have been done on it?
Go back to my point 10 seconds ago. We do more research on it. So
no, but yeah, but like that's what. Yeah. I'm just saying that like, yeah, like I'm not arguing against you. I'm just saying that like the reason why people would be pointing to the same 5 studies, and it's not even 5, but that's just like a random number.
Yeah.
Is maybe just because there's only been 5 studies done on it.
Yeah, and I would argue that.
But it's just
I'd argue that if something was so unresearched, maybe we shouldn't be making those medical recommendations.
Okay.
So
that's fair enough.
We're going to differ on the puberty blocker thing because until it's utterly set in stone by multiple meta-analyses, I'm not comfortable with that. Okay. But yeah, the whole thing once you're a grown ass adult, you can do what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a question, and it is kind of out of left field, and okay. I would kind of admit that. Okay. But it's kind of, well, it's roughly on topic. Do you think that Blair White is transphobic?
She's transphobic. Ultimately, no. I think no. Ultimately, no. I don't think she is transphobic. But
okay.
I think mull this one over a little bit.
I did just kind of drop it on you, just out of nowhere. So,
well, maybe define transphobia just so we're on the same page, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, kind of okay. So, why I am kind of in even partial agreement with the idea that she would be transphobic is because she has herself on. Okay, this is perhaps not the greatest example to use because this individual is an atrocious human being.
Right.
But there is a woman by the name of Jessica Yaniv. Have you heard of her or anything? No. But okay, Blair has done a few videos about her. She is a trans woman. Yeah, Blair, in 3 out of the 4 videos that she has made about Jessica, one of which was not even like an interview, but then again not even a debate either. It was more just like a heated conversation. But basically one of them was to her face. She purposely misgendered her. Purposefully misgendered her.
Okay.
She was called out for it, and yet she continued to do it.
Does she like this person?
Does which?
She like this person.
What difference does that make?
Respect them.
What difference does that make?
Because I'm just about
because
to say,
here's the thing. If somebody doesn't like Blair, if somebody doesn't respect Blair, are they then okay to call her a man?
No, but I'm trying to find out why she might have done so.
But this is the okay. That's what I said. She's maybe not the best example to use because Yaniv is a terrible human being. But the point is, and this is the argument that has been pointed out time and time again, how can Blair White possibly ever, in any situation, in any context, no matter how right she is and no matter how wrong the other person is, how can she possibly complain about being mistreated or about being misgendered when she does it herself?
Right, I think I was having a bit of a difficulty getting things straight in my head as when you asked the question. So the way I was framing it in my own mind at the time was that she's a self-hating trans person, I think. But I couldn't equate that to transphobic. Maybe it can be, but I'm not entirely sure. If it can be, then perhaps maybe she's projecting her own inner hatred on other people.
That's entirely possible.
Yeah, because as you mentioned, yeah, if you're a member of that very marginalized society, you're not going to break one of the core tenets of that society, like, you know.
Yeah, and I mean it's like literally so. But the whole argument is, well, if Blair can misgender somebody, then surely somebody can misgender Blair. And if she dare complain about it, well, then she's a hypocrite. But that's just like a logical continuation of like what's happened. Because why is it okay for her to misgender somebody, but it's not okay for me to misgender somebody, or for you to misgender somebody? That's the argument here. So that was the whole like Jessica thing. But I mean, like, surely you've heard of this recent controversy with J.K. Rowling, you know?
No, I have not yet.
Okay, so basically she went out on Twitter and she basically said that trans women aren't real women, right? Now, people are going to have their opinions on that and whatever. A lot of people, there was a little bit more to that, but that's like because like this was like,
That's
I don't know, like 5 or 6 tweets or something like that. That's like that's like an extreme summary of what she was basically saying.
That's a very charged statement, though, as well.
Yeah, and she like blatantly came off as extremely hateful towards trans women. Blair White did a video yesterday defending J.K. Rowling and saying that everything she had complete merits and that everything she had was backed up by this and that and the other.
Okay, so I don't know what J.K. Rowling
just,
said, so I'm not going to.
And that's
agree.
Fair enough. But my whole thing is, I just feel like saying like Blair, she just called you not like you would consider. Okay, Blair, I think we can all agree would consider herself to be a woman, right? Whether or not she was born that way or not, she identifies as a woman and would consider herself to be a woman. And yet she is going out on the only platform that she has with the biggest voice and the biggest range, and she is saying that the person who said that, and she is defending the person who said that she is not a real woman, completely undermining and underpinning everything that Blair has done to make herself more feminine since her teenage years.
What the whole
I just find it it's just really weird.
What's the whole context of the Rowling thing?
There kind of wasn't really one. It was kind of the same thing as she just kind of randomly tweeted out, oh yeah, by the way, Dumbledore is gay. She did that like, what was it, like 8 or 9 years ago? Like 7-8 years ago. Yeah, just completely randomly. It was just a Tuesday to her and she woke up, oh yeah, by the way, Dumbledore's gay.
She's been trying so hard to keep her relevant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's the whole thing. And but you see, like there like wasn't anything so far as I know anyway. I mean, it's not as if I've done like I've like fucking cross-referenced it or anything. But there wasn't anything like major in the news or in like
she wasn't
she wasn't responding to anything. No, she just woke up. Oh, it's Wednesday today. Oh, I'm going to do six tweets that are ridiculously disrespectful towards the trans community. It's just weird. But even if she like, I don't know. It's like there are certain things that like you are almost supposed to defend. If you're part of a group, then you're supposed to defend certain core aspects of it. You might disagree with some of the more fringe ones, but I mean, if you're gay and somebody says something that is extremely disrespectful towards the gay community, you're kind of supposed to defend. You're kind of supposed to defend yourself and to defend other gay people or like members of that community, right? You're kind of supposed to do that. If J.K. Rowling goes out and says something that is extremely derogatory and that is extremely disrespectful towards the trans community, then Blair, as somebody with a massive audience and a trans woman should come out and say and call it out for what it was.
So, first of all, I'm unwilling to weigh in on how offensive this was because I haven't seen the tweet. Because there are
That's entirely fair enough.
There are contexts where that statement could be factual. Let's be honest. If you include one word, biological, and it's a fact. It's not.
I mean, that's kind of fair enough. But I mean, like, it's still just like, it's like, oh god,
it doesn't need to be said.
Yeah,
it's one of those things that doesn't need to be said. It's one of the things. It's. I don't like using this fucking phrase, but I'm going to use it now. It is definitely a dog whistle to those kind of people, isn't it? Saying that they're not real women.
Yeah.
And like, you don't need to explicitly state more than that. It's just you're saying your message in the right way to the right kind of people, that those succinct words will reach them. So,
but this is kind of what like me and you were kind of talking about earlier today. Is, you know, so you have people like Milo Yiannopoulos, who is gay, who is on the right, and who will say extremely, you know, derogatory things towards other gay people, because to the right, that's what they like. They like people of a certain group talking badly of that same group. They love Candace Owens because she's a black person, and yet she says the same things towards the like same sort of negative things towards other black people. And Blair White is, I personally think, and this is my own kind of you know, Area 51 style theory, I think Blair is trying to become the Candace Owens and the Milo of the trans community.
Can I jump in here quickly, right? I get where you're coming from. Now, the likes of a Candace, for example, let's use her as an example. She can fully speak out against, even negatively so, against other black people, if it's not based solely on the fact that they're black. Because if it's based solely on the fact that they're black, then it is obviously just the fact that she's pandering, as she's allowed to say it. Like, say if she's speaking hypothetically or something, say there's a businessman or something and he engaged in corrupt tactics and she spoke out against it. The fact that he was black shouldn't have anything to do with it. But if she spoke out against the community as a whole, inherently based on characteristics of that community, then it's obvious that she's doing so because she can get away with it.
Yeah, it's kind of turned into this like really, really weird thing where, so the right wing have their talking points, right? And they have their arguments and stuff like that. Whereas for a very long time, simply because they were, it was seen as racist because a white person was saying it about black people. And it was seen as homophobic because a straight person was saying it about gay people. And it was seen as transphobic because a cis person was saying it about trans people. Whereas, because of the addition of these people to that group politically, you have that sort of get out of jail free card. You have that plausible deniability, whereas you're able to say, hey, look, I'm not racist, here's a black person saying it. I'm not homophobic, here's Milo saying me transphobic? No, look, here's Blair, she's saying the same thing. Of course I couldn't be transphobic if a trans person is saying it.
You have a roster of tokens.
Exactly. But it's that same thing of like, I don't understand why else Blair is doing it. I can't see a reason why she would be going out and trashing endless trans people if that was like, what's her end goal?
True.
I have to I have to include this simply because I can't exclude it. It could be possible that she doesn't have one, and that these are just her genuine opinions, right? And that maybe there is a little bit of self-hatred going on there. Maybe there's not. Maybe it's just maybe she's kind of divorced herself, where she's able to talk about an issue that would ordinarily include herself, but she's able just to kind of separate herself from it in order to talk about it. Maybe that's the case. But given that there is kind of like a clear pattern that has emerged from not just in the like in your popularity, but financially,
it could be that she, because the whole concept of being a trans person, it's like it's been around for thousands of millennia, but it's only kind of become solidified the last half a decade, really.
Yeah.
It could be that she has her own idea of what that is, and that she's speaking out against people who identify as that but don't align with her own ideas of it, and that she doesn't, because they don't align with her specifically, she doesn't feel that they need to be given the same amount of respect as she would personally demand.
And that's okay, but the kind of counter to that is, okay, so if you're basically saying that like two members of the same group can have different opinions about that group, right? That was like the first point that you kind of said.
Yeah.
That was like summarized, right?
Yeah.
And that you're saying that a potential is that Blair could just be criticizing the other person's views, kind of like with her views.
Yeah, where the conflict. Yeah.
And that's all perfectly okay.
Yeah.
But that doesn't account for why she can intentionally misgender someone.
True, it doesn't. And something I don't like about her as well is that she will misgender people specifically based on how well they pass.
Yeah.
Because she's quite, I'm not a psychologist or such, but she's quite a narcissistic person.
Yeah, like it. Of course, it is okay to have a difference of opinion. Of course, it's okay to have a battle of ideas. If I didn't think that was okay, I wouldn't have done any of the debates that I've done. But it doesn't give you the like. If Blair is engaging in a battle of ideas or in a battle of what she personally thinks could best benefit the trans community, if she thinks that her ideas are better than somebody else's, then all she needs to do is present those ideas. She doesn't need to call a trans woman a man repeatedly when she's been called out for it before. She doesn't need to do that. It just comes across as petty. And as you had said, yeah, she kind of tends to judge someone's validity as a trans person based on how well they pass. But
yeah,
I mean, Blair, there was so I'm personally of the opinion of, right, if you are a trans person now, then there's a case to be made that you always were a trans person, you just maybe didn't realize it. The same as you always were gay, you maybe just didn't realize you were gay, right? There was a point where Blair didn't pass at all.
There was.
Because if we're going to use this whole thing that J.K. Rowling did about the whole biological argument, biologically, she's a man.
Oh, she is, yes.
So there was a point where she did not pass at all. Does that mean that she didn't have worth? Does that mean that she wasn't valid? Does that mean that her opinions didn't matter? Of course it didn't. And I'm willing to say that. But for some reason she's not.
Yeah. Do you know what? You changed me out. Initially I went against it because it's kind of my point of view that I don't like to see somebody labeled as something phobic.
Yeah. And
that's understandable. That's kind of my gut wrench reaction to it. To be honest, I hadn't given Blair the time they or the thought for months and months on end. So I was just kind of dredging through my mind as to what she does and what she stands for, and that kind of led to probably an inaccurate interpretation of where she possibly stands. But yeah, no, you have changed your mind on it. Yeah, based on what she is at the minute, I think she probably is. She could be considered like a transphobic person.
Yeah.
I think she's doing more harm than good to the movement that she apparently stands for.
Yeah.
I think so. Which is, that's a fair assessment. And also some of the things you said that, well, even if she was transphobic and or a trans person and she has these different views that maybe other people don't have, why didn't she do XYZ? Well, that's only true if she's of a rational mind.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's easy to say, well, of course she should have done this, but like, if the ground zero of this equation is that she doesn't see things normally in a rational way, then that kind of goes out the window.
Yeah, I've kind of discovered something almost like about myself. Not just necessarily since the last podcast that we did, because that was only a week ago and that was a very short self-discovery trip, but kind of in the kind of like lead up to it, because I kind of knew what I was going to say during the last podcast.
Yeah.
Like a few weeks ago, like as soon as it happened, right? But I think just like definitely in the last little while, I've kind of not even necessarily like changed my mind on some of the things that I think, but I've just kind of asked myself, you know, like, how did I get to this position? How did I get to being a social democrat? Right? How did I get to being in favor of all the things that I'm in favor of, right? And why am I in favor of this? And why am I not for this?
Yeah.
Right? And my kind of the answer that I kind of got to, and the reason that I have for it, is because I don't think that I'm a particularly like sorry, no, I'm not going to like go down that road. When it comes to certain issues, I kind of picture myself, or I take the role of that annoying very younger cousin to who every statement that you give to them, they will respond to you with why, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, the sky is blue. Why?
Yeah.
It just is. I don't know. I don't know. It just but why? That's kind of like, and it's sort of like that kind of rant, or that like whatever on the last podcast about, you know, the whole dome thing and stuff. I want to know what, like, if there is a massive amount of crime in poorer neighborhoods or in black neighborhoods, I why?
Yeah.
You know, like it just doesn't make any fucking sense to me to hear that statement and go, all right, okay, I'll move on with my day. It just, yeah, but what? Why though?
Yeah, it's like, why would we? Another why is, why would we accept that as the norm?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Black people. Of course, they're always going to be poor and crime-ridden. Okay, first of all, why do we accept that that's the norm?
Yeah.
And first of all, and secondly, why is that the case? And you dig back through it and such like that. I have a question for you, actually.
Go ahead.
I'm going to wonder, and it's going to be a question of you to me. It's questionception as such. But
okay.
Okay. So, my moniker online is centrist. Because, as I mentioned previously, I try my best to look at things just on face value. I try not to apply any kind of party ideology to something when I'm considering it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why it. Now, I may align more with one side than the other on certain things, but that's the reason I chose that particular moniker.
Okay.
Having said that, I personally can't nail down where I am. Where I be a social democrat, classical liberal, Republican, an anarchist, libertarian, wherever you are in the spectrum, I can't personally self-identify where it is. Now, maybe in some instances you might know me better than I know me. So, where would you put me?
Just kind of based off of the takes that I know that you have about a lot of different issues or about a lot of different policies, I wouldn't put you as left as me, because we do have some, yeah, but I think you're much further left than you think you are.
Quite possibly, and I think I have a tremendous contrarian streak in me.
Yeah,
I think I will.
like I think that you're left on almost every social issue.
Yeah,
Like at least the ones that would kind of push you in a kind of left to kind of very left category.
Yeah,
Everything from same-sex marriage to trans rights to legalization of weed to like all of these sorts of social issues. You're on board with them, and you would agree with me on them.
yeah.
But then also, I mean, like when it comes to things like taxes, I mean, like, do you think that the rich should pay more in taxes in the States than what they already do?
This is where it gets a bit complicated.
Okay.
Okay, so and this is where I think that Republicans getting a bit shortchanged in how they're perceived.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people who have Republican tendencies, they are people who envision themselves at some stage as doing well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with them, like at an individual level, wanting to keep what they work hard for. And working hard, and for the average person, if you're not a super billionaire, the amount of money that you're going to make that you work hard for, I don't think you should be taxed highly for at all.
Okay.
And that can go up as far as, honestly, I don't know, maybe just pulling this out of my arse here, maybe 100, 150 grand a year, something like that. If you, like, in a normal average job, to get that much money, you're working your whole off to get that. And you've done that for years and years.
Yeah.
And you've built equity in your social circles to do that. So I don't think it's fair that you get taxed out the arse for it, as you would in Ireland if you made that much.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I kind of go against that. In the States, the tax system is such that there are so many loopholes that the super mega wealthy billionaires can skirt it and not pay, essentially not pay any. And I'm against that.
Yeah.
So that's why I lie on that type thing.
So I mean, Noam Chomsky, I think it was him actually, did a test. He did this test. I think it was something like 6 or 7 years ago, where he said he basically made a statement, like a public statement or like an open letter or something like that, to every millionaire and to every billionaire in the States.
Right.
And he said if you can prove through your to your taxes,
yeah,
that you paid a higher percentage, not a higher amount, a higher percentage than your secretary, I will give you 1 million of my own dollars.
Right.
Not one person could collect.
That's
Not
fair.
one person would collect.
Yeah, listen. I think that's fair, but I think that
In what context do you mean you think that's fair?
I think that's a fair accusation to make against the
Oh, against them. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
up to a certain like by millionaire like see millionaires like when it comes to billionaire, yeah, that's a different thing altogether. But millionaire is a tricky one because you can be a 45, 50-year-old man who just has done well enough and has saved and has been prudent and worked hard for 30 years and garnered yourself €1,000,000 in savings.
Yeah.
But you're not making astronomical amounts of money
Yeah.
per year. So I don't think you should be taxed in the same bracket as the astronomically wealthy. So I think if it's communicated correctly, I think that's what an awful lot of distinction between that many your average common average Republican would have with kind of democratic values in terms of fiscally, insofar as they see these progressive taxes suggested by in the Green New Deal and by Sanders and like that. They look at the number and they don't envision that as themselves now paying it. They envision that, well, fucking, if I'm going to work hard, I'm going to make a lot of money one of these days. Then I'm going to have to pay it. Because that's the mindset I have, to be perfectly honest. Because I'm doing okay as a 24-year-old. I want to continue to be doing okay as a 30-year-old, and doing okay as a 30-year-old is by default better than as a 24-year-old. So I don't want to kind of get screwed out of my earnings.
Yeah.
By taxation, and especially when you see the wasteful ways that the government spends and such as that. So yeah, I think fiscally I'm definitely far more conservative than I am socially.
Okay.
I do think taxes are a necessary thing. We need it to keep the public amenities and services running that we all avail of. We need them there to help and give a leg up to the people in society who haven't been given a fair shot in life to start off with.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're taxing the right people. We're taxing too much of the middle class who just want to have a good life, as opposed to the people who have 10,000 good lives, essentially, with the money that they have. They're paying nothing. So that's kind of where I lie with whole taxation.
Yeah. So basically, kind of like what I got from that basically was, for middle class taxes, you would be more conservative leaning, but for the kind of like ultra wealthy, it's almost the opposite. You would be very left leaning.
Yeah, because listen,
I get what
you
mean.
You only need so much to live a comfortable life. You only do.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
How many generations do you want your family to be billionaires for? Do you want to create a dynasty that lasts until the 4000 AD?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what some of these people are doing with the amount of money that they're hoarding. So like I think I've heard studies and mention this, that once you get something to the realm of, I don't know, a paltry 100 million, well, the extra money doesn't really improve your livelihood, your everyday life.
Yeah.
So that everything in excess of that is just purely that excess. It's just money sitting there that is moving around and earning money for bankers and for investors. Well, it could be put back into social projects.
Yeah.
So yeah, very left leaning for those types of upper echelon, because it's just money that's being wasted in the economy. Because if it's not being spent, it's being wasted.
Yeah.
But yeah, the middle class need to be given a break. I think and it's because the middle class wasn't given a break for so long that fucking Trump got in.
That's true. Yeah, it's weird, and like I don't even really kind of know why I said taxes in the beginning of this whole thing, because that's like really like not even the kind of best example. I mean, I'll just kind of say like this one because I know where you stand on it, like
Okay.
100%, because we have said this I don't know how many times on this
Okay.
podcast. Healthcare. I know like that you are left on healthcare.
Yes.
So yeah, like, look, it's okay to have like this is. I don't even know if this is like a phrase or if it's a thing, but like mixed party positions on policy.
Yeah, I think that's what everybody should be, to be honest.
Yeah, like I'm sure if you kind of poked and prodded me a little bit, you could probably find something that was, I mean, a centrist at least
I think
that I'm in favor of.
What I think is idiotic, right, is saying that, okay, I am Republican, and then with that knowledge internally that this is who I am, you identify yourself as this. When given a question, you basically go through the Rolodexes of officially recommended opinions, and then you give that back as the answer.
Yeah,
That is idiotic. Why don't you just look at it objectively and give your...
Yeah. I mean, like, that's again kind of like what we were talking about earlier. It's this idea of whether or not you are a hack.
Yeah.
You know, like whether you have this like playbook of things that you've been told to like, or things that you've been told to support, or like whether you like actually can come out and say like, no, this is what I'm actually in favor of. This is what I actually think will better, and I'm willing to criticize my own when they do something wrong, and I'm willing to congratulate my opponents when they do something right.
Yeah.
And it's this idea, I like everybody was saying this at the start of the year, where when COVID was first kind of announced as like, holy shit, this is bad and this is going to be a very, very bad thing. One of Trump's first responses was, okay, just like ban all travel from China. I totally get why he did that.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
I totally get why he did that.
He got
and it's not
for it
just
as well, didn't he?
Like, okay, here's the thing. If I was one of his advisors, I would have told him, don't specify China because they're gonna call you a racist. Just say we are going to ban every single non-essential flight into the country, and what we are going to do is for everybody who is flying into the country that needs to get in has to be placed in mandatory self-quarantine for 2 weeks, because this is when the like symptoms will like start to show. And if you are self-quarantining, then at least you can't spread it to other people.
Yeah.
Like, I think that Ireland should have done that.
Oh yes, everybody should have done that.
I think that every single country should have done that. Like that just wasn't hard. Like, if this if you are faced with a problem, right? If like late January, early February, if because we probably would have gotten the news by then in like fucking in Ireland that this was the thing. If it hadn't gotten into the country yet, and if we had no reason to believe that COVID had gotten into the country yet, then I would have looked at that as a situation of, okay, currently right now Ireland is COVID free. Yeah. Shut down every fucking airport in the country. Don't allow anybody else in. Like, and if you are letting it, almost like a means test, I guess that's kind of like the closest. That's not exactly it, but that's like the closest thing, I guess. and if you need to come into the country, then it's like, okay, look, we'll let you in, but you have to do this because this is for public safety.
That's more or less what New Zealand did, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they licked it very
quickly.
They
had 40 cases.
Yeah.
40 cases. Like, ever. Not this month. Like, fucking, like,
Nuts.
Jesus, that's insane. Like,
that's,
it just seems as like, if it's not in the country, then do everything you can to keep it out of the country. Yeah. That's just basic to me. But every single left-leaning person, because it's like, oh, Trump, and he like said the thing with China, like,
Orange
oh
man bad.
Yeah, of course he's like fucking racist, and that's a bad thing to like. Just like, dude, no, just stop for a minute and think about it.
That only adds fuel to the. Because this whole thing that, like, oh, the media is biased and left leaning and that, okay, it's not groundless. There are some basis to that. Trump doesn't help the fact of the matter by being a fucking idiot, but they're very willing to look for gaffes that he makes as opposed to good decisions, and he does make them now and then. He does make them now and then.
Yeah.
I think his presidency would have been so much better if he had like an optics filterer who just everything he said passed through this very professional person, like a politician speak person who could turn Trump speak into human speak.
Yeah, into something that's like, you know, okay for the population to hear. Yeah,
he would have gone down as a decent president, I think, overall. Like if you have a good enough spin doctor, you could put the fucking concentration camps on the south border and the southern border in a good light. A good enough spin doctor, Obama manager.
Yeah. I mean, probably. Yeah, if you had a good enough one. Yeah.
Anyway, listen. You want to bring up another topic? I have to go to the toilet.
Jesus Christ, man! I'm starting to fucking fade out, man.
Well, back in you pontificate for a while, and I'll be back in a minute.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so just kind of based on that, this will probably be one of the last topics that we're going to talk about. I mean, we've been going for 2.5 hours now. 2.5 hours? A long time. It's been a minute. Oh fuck, this is actually only the last thing that we have. Okay, so as you can see there, that's his name. I'm not going to pronounce it because I'm not very good at doing that. Yeah, he wants to financially penalize anybody who kneels during the anthem. Not who has kneeled, because that would be a lot of paperwork, but people who are going to kneel now. And now I have to fucking catch you up. Okay, so
you do.
This guy, I'm not going to fucking pronounce his name. It's on the screen for everybody who's watching, so it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, he wants to financially penalize anybody who kneels at the anthem. Now, it's not anybody who has kneeled, because that would be a lot of paperwork. But it's anybody who now kneels at any future game, right? He is
players only, or players only, presumably.
I would imagine so. I didn't actually specify, but I would imagine so.
So how's like he'd hardly like look up, like find a person in the crowd.
Yeah, I was just going to say yeah. So it would probably only be the players then, considering that he's wanting to
So
anyway,
who is he? What context does he have? Who is he like?
He's Republican.
Okay, but what does he do?
Mm-hmm.
Is he? We're talking about the NFL, is it?
Yeah,
Things matter, Stephen.
I'm actually sorry, I haven't actually done a little bit of I think he might just be a politician.
Okay.
I think he might just and like he just introduced this bill.
Okay.
But so yeah, basically he wants to penalize anybody who will kneel at the anthem, which is extremely confusing for me because Republicans are supposed to be the free speech, freedom, we're number one,
Yeah.
and yet telling somebody that they cannot protest,
Mm.
probably one of the most un-American things I can even think of.
It's always free speech so long as it's speech that you agree with, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't like the fact that they kneeled, so no, I'm going to make sure
Yeah.
that they don't do it again.
Yeah.
But it's just like literally telling somebody that they cannot protest. Like, I think that dissent is the highest form of patriotism, and that goes in a lot of different like it. That's not just in the States either. Like if you are if you love your country, then you should be
Yeah.
able to call it out when it does shit wrong.
Yeah, and like if you care enough about your country to actually actively try to better it,
Yeah,
you're a patriot.
exactly. Yeah.
And just the act of kneeling during the anthem, it's not like let's go beyond the fact that it wasn't a thing to stand during it until the past 10 years.
Yeah.
It's not an inherently disrespectful thing. Like in all of history, kneeling has been a sign of respect.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it can be a sign of respect to the anthem as well
Yeah.
as a memorial to the people who have fallen to injustices. It can be both.
Yeah, but it's just so weird because one of the hosts on Fox News, I think it was Laura Ingraham, either that or it was Janine Pirro. It was one of them anyway. They actually made a legendary gaffe themselves.
Right. Okay.
Which is in response to the protests that have been happening all over the States right now. What she said was, if only they could have done it through peaceful means. And yet Fox News and every single one of the fucking anchors
I didn't
on
quite
there,
understand that.
What is going on?
who the fuck are you? Get away. So sorry about that. Every single one of them on there was criticizing Colin Kaepernick for what he did.
Yeah.
And they were saying that, that like he was unpatriotic, that he was this, he was that, he was like a fucking traitor to his country, that he was the worst human being on the fucking planet. So basically what they're saying is they don't like it when you peacefully protest, and they don't like it when you non-peacefully protest. It's almost like they're trying to tell you just shut up and deal with it.
Sounds like they don't like you.
Yeah. It's almost like they don't like you talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, it was fine when it was an issue that I didn't have to come on here and talk about it for my job. I liked it better then.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have to think about it. It
Yeah.
wasn't floating around in my head then. But now I have to.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
Yes.
It's just
Yeah.
it's just odd because it's like an impossible standard.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like, yeah.
I just feel like asking them if the protests that are happening right now are not the correct way of going about it or of dealing with what's happening, and Colin Kaepernick kneeling, doing a peaceful method of protesting is not the correct. What is?
Strongly worded letters, probably.
But yeah, it's like it's just, if you ever get like a Karen type figure in work who just won't stop bitch, it's just okay. What specifically would you like me to do, and I will try to do that.
Yes.
Like that's what I want to ask them. Like, okay, how detail by fucking detail. Specifically, how do you want us to protest? And we'll just try our best. We might not, we might not get it, but fuck it, we'll try.
Yeah, give it
you
a
know
go.
that sort of like it's just weird to me.
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense.
You know, It's like you're fucked if you do and you're fucked if you don't. It's just
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. It's just an odd situation to me.
It is. It is. Yeah. Can run out of steam here now as well. To be honest, do you want to?
Yeah, just to kind of wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
It's been a long one since just the two of us. Like
yeah, it has been a very long one since
we
it was just the two of us. Yeah.
we've done well, fair. Like done well.
Yeah. What's that? 2.5 hours.
That's good.
2.5
for
hours
Two people to talk.
for two
like.
people to talk. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So the next time that you will see me, and I'm saying this word purposefully, is hopefully tomorrow. There was if it doesn't happen tomorrow, I'll probably do a video or I'll make a statement on it or something. But it's a whole thing. When am I going to see you next? When are we going to be back on? What are we doing? Another one?
I don't know. Whatever.
Is it just kind of hopefully soon?
Hopefully soon. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so if it's not tomorrow, it'll be soon.